Today I'm reacting to your Friday Night SmackDown Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you follow me on X because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. And I know it's not technically a Premium Live event, but I am going to be doing one for Saturday night's main event as well. By the way, if you're looking for our review of Friday Night SmackDown, go check out the Patreon. Over there, we have a full review with footage for you to be able to see exactly what it is that we're talking about. That's available on patreon.com/SantiZap alongside other content that never gets uploaded here to YouTube. So go check it out. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm really confident that you're going to fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. All right, let's read your stupid shit. If SmackDown is going to be 3 hours for months, they need to book 3 hours worth of material, not stretch out 2 hours worth of matches and promos into 3. Tonight was bad. Listen, when you compare the two shows, Raw and SmackDown, right now, Raw is the significantly better show. And I feel like part of the reason for that is the flexible timing that it has on Netflix. It allows Raw to reach its natural conclusion, whether it's at 2.5 hours, 3 hours, or 3.5 hours, which prevents the show from dragging. If the show needs to go long, it's because it warrants it going long. And if it warrants it going long, there's a very good chance that the crowd is going to be engaged even with the extra runtime. However, on Friday Night SmackDown, it does feel like they are stretching out segments and matches just to hit this 3-hour marker. You got to remember, the SmackDown roster hasn't expanded yet. They're still using the same roster for that 2-hour show for this 3-hour show. I will say, I feel like they are getting better at the very least. I feel like this episode was significantly better than last week's because last week's truly dragged its feet. But at least this week, most divisions got screen time, stories got progressed, we got some promos. It was better. And there are some divisions that are flourishing because of SmackDown going to 3 hours, like the tag team division. But I will say, I do believe that they are stretching out the amount of content that they have. I feel like they've got people that they can use to add to the show to make it warrant a 3-hour runtime. They have the Wyatt 6 right there, and they still chose not to use them. So you're still utilizing this 2-hour roster for this 3-hour show, and it's leading to a lot of people feeling like the show is dragging. By the way, he is not the only person that wrote in. So many people wrote in that this 3-hour structure for SmackDown is getting a little bit too unbearable. I don't think it's unbearable, but I do feel like there are some growing pains that we're going through right now. The Los Garza boys were excellent tonight. In fact, they have been consistently good, and I'm happy the people are starting to get behind them. So this is one of the best portions of this 3-hour SmackDown. These guys are probably right now the biggest beneficiaries of SmackDown going to 3 hours because the world is starting to realize how goddamn good these guys are in the ring. They are cooking. They are delivering excellent match after excellent match, or as a famous philosopher once said, banger after banger after banger. And not only are they delivering matches, they're getting backstage segments. We're seeing them develop as characters. This is what we need more of on this 3-hour structured SmackDown. We need more of these new faces making a name for themselves. Give us Blair Davenport. Let Giovanni Vinci sink or swim. Give us the Wyatt 6. We need these new faces on SmackDown getting more time now. Tiffany winning clean felt like the first step to getting her to become a babyface. Charlotte should return as a heel. Listen, I love Tiffany, but I just can't fathom a world where she's a babyface. She is so darn good as a heel, and I just feel like the persona that she portrays is best as a heel. I bet if they turn her babyface, so many people are gonna get tired of her. It just happens so often with these types of characters where they try to see what it would look like on the other side as a good guy and it just flops. Look at The Miz. They tried it with The Miz and it didn't work. People want him as a heel, and he had to go back as a heel because that's where he operates the best. And I have a feeling, I can't confirm it, that that's going to be Tiffany Stratton as well. I feel like Charlotte could come back as a heel, could come back as a babyface, whatever it might be. She is better as a heel, but that being said, I feel like she should come back as a babyface to help elevate a heel Tiffany Stratton, because heel Tiffany Stratton is how she's going to make a name for herself at this portion of her career, in my opinion. Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu at Saturday night's main event is going to be an absolute movie. Two beasts going head to head. Okay, it's starting, fellas. It is starting, ladies and gentlemen. The Jacob Fatu dream matches are starting to become a reality. All of these face-offs that Jacob Fatu has been having are now on the table as realistic matches now that Solo seems to have lost his smile and walked away. Jacob Fatu is about to be unleashed on the main roster. Now we can get Jacob Fatu, Braun Strowman, Jacob Fatu versus Shinsuke Nakamura versus Braun Breaker, whatever it might be. At this point, I am down for a WrestleMania clash between Jacob Fatu and friggin' Maxine Dupree. That's how much hype I have for Jacob Fatu, and it starts right here with Braun Strowman, and I feel like this is going to be a beautiful car crash. Honestly, I thought that they were going to build to this being Jacob Fatu's first WrestleMania singles match. I really thought that it had the legs and the hype for it, but they're pulling the trigger early, and I'm here for it, baby. SmackDown needs those NXT call-ups with Roxanne and maybe Trick Williams to create more storylines, because it's been kind of repetitive over the past few weeks. Yeah, it has been repetitive. I am a little bit gun shy about just saying, yeah, throw NXT call-ups in there and this will fix everything, considering their last wave of NXT call-ups they didn't particularly use amazingly over on Friday Night SmackDown. I'm looking at you, Blair Davenport. She is too good to be kept on the sideline. What is going on there? Anyways, I feel like they should expand the roster, yes, but do not call people up unless you have something of substance for them ready to go day one. So I'm here for it. Yeah, sure. Trick Williams, that would work great with Carmelo Hayes. I'm down for them to run that back. We have a storyline right there ready made for Roxanne Perez's call-up with Bayley. So there are already storylines in place. So if they are going to run with those storylines, I'm down. But if it's just to have more bodies on SmackDown for the sake of more bodies on SmackDown, like they basically did with Blair Davenport, I'm not down for that. Not necessarily SmackDown, but this partnership would be huge. Hopefully it works on the main roster too for the likes of AJ Styles, Motor City Machine Guns, and ex-WWE wrestlers like the Hardys too. Yeah, for those that don't know, news broke out earlier this week that WWE and TNA are entering, get this, into a multi-year partnership that will allow WWE talent to cross over to TNA and TNA talent to cross over to the WWE. However, the statement released made it pretty clear that it's likely going to be NXT and TNA, and they already had that working relationship. So I feel like you can throw out the dreams of maybe having an Ultimate X match with TNA people at WrestleMania. I don't think that that's going to happen. I also feel, at least I feel, that the interactions between the main roster and TNA are going to be limited. We thought we were going to get AJ Styles crossing over to TNA the last time around. That didn't happen. We thought that we were going to get Jordan Grace appearing in the Women's Intercontinental Championship tournament. That didn't end up happening. I feel like the main roster interactions would be limited, perhaps to the names that you're mentioning here, like Motor City Machine Guns. I feel like that's a really good candidate to make that crossover, but maybe the Royal Rumble, where like perhaps Joe Hendry could show up. But I do believe that it's going to be mostly an interaction between TNA and NXT. Here's the thing though, this is just amazing news. I know that if it's just TNA and NXT, that it's not the biggest groundbreaking thing, but it doesn't matter. This is a different WWE, and that's the big news here. WWE that wants to work with its competition, a WWE that is open to negotiating, and a WWE that is opening its doors to names that they themselves didn't make into superstars. That is something that in my era of wrestling, the 2000s and 2010s, was completely out the window. And the fact that this is an actual reality in this world in this 2025 still blows my goddamn mind. Roxanne didn't need to be there, as it didn't contribute to their fresh feud. I don't know. I felt like it did contribute. I feel like too many people believe that the only way to contribute would be for her to have gone in there and screwed Bayley out of the match. But then honestly, that would have hurt Tiffany Stratton in the long run. So I'm glad that Roxanne Perez didn't get involved. But I feel like this did a lot of things. They included Roxanne Perez in the main event segment. That does signal to me that they want main roster fans to know who Roxanne Perez, so that they can go to NXT and watch what Roxanne Perez is all about. And it also tells me that they are prepping fans to get to know this face and this name, Roxanne Perez, for a call-up. So I personally like it because I do believe that it did give Roxanne Perez a little bit more notoriety, a little bit more of a limelight for when she's ready to be called up, so that it's not, again, a Blair Davenport situation where they're just calling up somebody that most people that only watch the main roster have never heard of. This version of Kevin Owens is so fun and entertaining to watch. It's such a treat. This Kevin Owens might be my favorite version of Kevin Owens, and I feel like that's the real hot take, because there's been so many great versions of Kevin Owens in this era of WWE that it is hard to pick from. But this right here, I really, really like what Kevin Owens is doing. This guy that in his own eyes, he is humble, he is nice, he is the good guy. But until somebody sides with Cody Rhodes, he is willing to implode. He had all the respect for for Rey Mysterio up until Rey Mysterio said that he wasn't the champion, that Cody's the champion, and then he was willing to rip his head off. I love this Kevin Owens. I love how short fused he is. I love how dangerous he is. I love how funny he is at the same time. He hasn't lost that humor. This Kevin Owens is absolutely brilliant. The build to Saturday night's main event feels better this time around. I feel like 90% of the problem with the last one, it was that we got a PLE style build, then we were disappointed when the result wasn't a PLE. Funny enough, if there is a Saturday night's main event that needs PLE-like results, it's this one, because if they can set the pace that you cannot miss Saturday night's main event, if they have Jey Uso win the World Heavyweight Championship on Saturday night's main event becomes a can't miss affair. Saturday night's main event needs its one defining moment in 2025, and I feel like it should happen at this iteration of it so that it starts off the year strong, the name of it doesn't become watered down, and you have to tune into it every 4 months when it appears on TV.
Hold on.
This really was the best match, man. Look, wow.
Oh,
What a counter. Oh, God, nasty meteor. Oh my God.
Oh.
That, folks, was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club offerings available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 39. A crazy Lucha Underground match between Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma, aka Ricochet. The NXT Match of the Year between Josh Briggs, Dijak, and Obafemi at NXT Stand and Deliver. A bloody classic from over 20 years ago between Kurt Angle and Stone Cold Steve Austin at SummerSlam 2001. And the legendary match between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay at AEW Forbidden Door 2023. You're going to be getting this and more, like the Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else, the currently ongoing Undertaker WrestleMania match watch-alongs, the Royal Rumble match watch-alongs that we've been doing, and more. So go check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap. So much more extra content that never gets uploaded here to YouTube. So go check it out. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Thank you for your support. Let's get you back to the video. The Queen is coming back, and that can only be great things for WWE. I agree, brother. Too many people hate Charlotte. I think that she is fantastic, and I feel like she is a great asset to the WWE and a huge name to add into the women's main event scene as well. I do feel like they shouldn't have announced this. I feel like if they were going to have Charlotte Flair come back, that she should have just came back as a surprise, whether it was at the Rumble, after the Rumble, maybe it's at Elimination Chamber, whatever it might be. They should have just left this for the imagination, as all of us would have been counting the days waiting for the inevitable Charlotte Flair return. But this basically spoils it. We should be expecting Charlotte Flair any moment now. I wish they kind of kept them to themselves, but at least I'm happy that Charlotte is back. And it's been a whole year. Can you believe that? A whole year without Charlotte. And that's a whole year without Charlotte holding championships. That's not right, fellas. You know what's going to happen. Charlotte Flair is going to win gold, whether it's mid-card gold or championship gold. Oh, somebody just followed me. I still have my notifications on. Anyways, I'm glad that Charlotte Flair is back. SmackDown desperately needs to invest in its men mid-card division. They're getting little TV time in a 3-hour show. There's no compelling storylines to elevate them to a title feud, and Nakamura's US title reign has been lackluster. It's the main missing piece for SmackDown at the moment. So right there, you said it at the end. That's the portion that I do agree with. I do believe that it is the biggest missing piece of Friday Night SmackDown at the moment. I feel like they figured it out across the board. The men's tag team division, women's tag team division, women's main event, men's main event. They've got that sorted out. Even Chelsea Green is doing her best to prop up the newly minted women's United States mid-card division. But the men's mid-card just sort of feels like it's floundering. It feels like it's just sort of floating on dead water at the moment in the middle of the ocean. That being said, they're being featured, but they're just not being featured in the way that we traditionally expected, which is with the champion being the cog that it makes the wheel go round. Shinsuke just sort of feels like an afterthought. Meanwhile, the division continues to try and flirt flourish in the absence of the champion. We see Jacob Fatu being inserted in there, feuding with LA Knight, now with Braun Strowman. We got Carmelo Hayes and Jimmy Uso doing their own thing. The division is there. The division is having great matches and having compelling storylines, but it's devoid of the champion. And that's the problem right now, that they cannot make a compelling mid-card division that involves the champion, unfortunately. Jacob and Tama both getting singles matches is really nice. Solo leaving in the middle of the promo made me feel like the new Bloodline is done. It made me feel that way as well, and it made me feel, like I mentioned earlier, that the era of Jacob Fatu is here. The way that he picked up the mic once Solo left, the way that he cut an amazing promo, the fact that they're already setting him up to have singles matches tells me that this new Bloodline is done. I don't feel like Solo in the main event is done. I'm sure that Solo will eventually come back and wreak havoc and try and reclaim the Ula Fala or whatever the hell. But I feel like at the very least for the next little while, this new Bloodline is going to go on ice, and we're going to see mostly it being focused on the development of both Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. I feel like Kevin Owens is getting close to overusing the pile driver. It was really sick at first with Orton, but Cody didn't hit the same, and Ray's attempt didn't hit at all. Oh my God, yeah, he's really overusing it, using it 2 times in the past 3 months. Wow. Whew, man, I really hope they don't kill that move and bury it with how much they're using it. They're not overusing it, man. He's hit it twice, and every single other time that they've tried to hit it, they've sold the importance of him not hitting it and somebody making the save because of how dangerous the move has been portrayed. And one of the reasons why it's so portrayed as a dangerous move is because it's only been used twice. It's not been overused. You're really overreacting here. The women's division booking is an issue that can no longer be ignored, in my opinion. The contrast in how the men's and women's rumbles are being built is night and day. There's one confirmed star and 0 stories heading into the match compared to the multiple segments and buzz put into the men's. This is 100% true. You are speaking gospel here. But let me play silver lining dude here. This has been the case for the past 2 rumbles. The men's rumble gets all of the tender love and care, and yet somehow it's the women's rumble the past 2 years that steals the show. And I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the case if we have the women's rumble once again for the 3rd straight year being the significantly better of the 2 Royal Rumbles. But it is, like you said, night and day. The men's rumble is getting a much better hype up, much better build up than the women's is. And is that a problem? Absolutely it is. Will it be a problem once the dust settles after the Royal Rumble? We'll see. It hasn't been a problem after the dust settled after the last 2 women's rumble. So we'll just have to wait and see. But you're right. The women's rumble just isn't getting anywhere near as much tender love and care. I'm ready to see Jacob take over, but who does he bring in? Hikuleo? So I didn't think of this. Yeah, with Solo being out, maybe this is a world where Jacob Fatu kind of takes over here and he starts his own iteration and brings in Hikuleo. However, we're starting to get dangerously close to those NWO days where it was the NWO Wolfpack, the NWO Originals, and we started to get all of these different factions within a faction, and that could get maybe a little bit too much. But yeah, I could see a world where this happens. Like really realistically, I could see Hikuleo coming under the wing of Jacob Fatu. I'm honestly getting irritated, frustrated, and disappointed that we haven't gotten anything from the Wyatt Six in weeks. I think their last match was like 5 or 6 weeks ago and have had nothing since. Quick, pop quiz. Who won the last match in the feud between the Wyatt Six and the Final Testament? All right, you know it? All right, the answer is, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Was the final match that match between Dexter and The Miz? Or was that final match the match that was actually faction versus faction where the Final Testament won? I genuinely don't know. I don't remember because the WWE did such a poor job of making that feud be good. In most regards, it just wasn't very good. And to me, them just axing the feud and saying Wyatt Six to SmackDown was a confirmation that even they knew what they had in their hands between the Wyatt Six and Final Testament wasn't very good, and it wasn't going anywhere, and it wasn't really helping anyone on either side. Them going to SmackDown, I do feel like it's a godsend. Them not being used on SmackDown is concerning. However, that seems to be kind of a pattern on SmackDown where they don't seem to use all of the stars that they have. Again, Giovanni Vinci, Blair Davenport, fantastic examples. Shinsuke Nakamura recently as well didn't get used on this episode of Friday Night SmackDown. But there are so many cool people for the Wyatt Six to interact with on Friday Night SmackDown. We have Carmelo Hayes because of what happened between him and Trick Williams. We have have the Bloodline itself if they're willing to go there. Actually, when Solo left, I thought the Wyatt Six was about to debut on Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga there for a second. And I know that some of you felt that as well, but we need to see the Wyatt Six. Honestly, it is getting a little bit ridiculous with how little we see them. And unfortunately, when we do see them, they aren't booked particularly in great things either. So we don't see them a lot. And when we do see them, it's not great. We need to fix that. I would have liked to have seen Kevin Owens use the package pile driver on Rey and sideline him for the Royal Rumble. Ruining his entry and incapacitating him in his hometown in front of his daughter would have completed the heel turn and stopped fans from still cheering him. Brother, that would have been fire. Honestly, you kind of fantasy booked a beautiful, awesome segment here, and I'm going to co-sign this, and I'm also going to laminate it because this is really good. I would have loved to see this too. And not because I think he's a deadbeat and because I love Dominic Mysterio. I just feel like this would have been a great angle and a great way to get even more heat on Kevin Owens. I like how they've been doing a, quote, pseudo main event around the 2-hour mark. Yeah, and I feel like that's on purpose. Remember, SmackDown used to be 2 hours. So there are people that are used to watching SmackDown that have made it a habit and a schedule where they're available until, at the very least, the end of the 2-hour portion. So I feel like to cater to those fans, the ones that have been with SmackDown long enough when it used to be 2 hours, they're having a pseudo main event when most fans would be accustomed to expecting the main event. Those fans that watched SmackDown when it was 2 hours. But we are seeing them now move that pseudo main event into the actual main event. Like we did see it this week with the women having the championship match. But as you saw a few weeks ago, we saw the cash in, something that would traditionally maybe happen in the main event, happening in what you've mentioned here, the pseudo main event spot. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see this for the next little while, actually, until most people start to get accustomed to the show being 3 hours. Or maybe they don't do that. Maybe they will always have a pseudo main event because SmackDown is scheduled to go back down to 2 hours. So I don't know. Jacob Fatu should win a singles title in 2025. Listen, the reason I picked this one is because so many people just want to pigeonhole Jacob Fatu. He should go for the Ula Fala. He should go for head of the table. I feel like he should go for like something a little bit more traditional of singles glory in the WWE. I don't mind him going after the Ula Fala, but I would also like the Bloodline people to also care about the materialistic things within the WWE, like Jey Uso has, how he's been chasing glory and gold outside of just trying to be the tribal chief. I want to see Jacob Fatu going after the US Championship. I want to see Jacob Fatu go after the Intercontinental Championship. I'll take Jacob Fatu going after the Speed Championship, frankly, at this point. It looked like they were really trying to push Jimmy here. They did the back entrance, they did a promo, and they had him do an amazing match with Carmelo Hayes. Oh yeah, they're trying. They're trying their darnest to push Big Jim. I feel like they recognize that there is fire, that there is a small little blaze that they might be able to fan into something that maybe turns into the popularity of Jey Uso. They know that Jey was able to accomplish it, and maybe they want to try and strike lightning twice with Jimmy Uso. I feel like it's really tough to get to the level of Jey, but you never know. Frankly, this match was fantastic. The promo going into the match was great. Carmelo Hayes' promo on Jimmy was also great as well. This is just a good feud that I want to see more of, and I want to see a definitive winner without the Bloodline getting involved, and I feel like they will eventually be pushing Jimmy towards Shinsuke Nakamura. That is honestly a bit of a given conclusion based on how they're treating him recently. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching this episode of Hot Takes. Take care. Goodbye. Take care. Get out of here. Go, go, go.